I welcome all of you to the video lecture series on fluid dynamics. This lecture is on topic 6 on differential analysis of a fluid flow. The title of this lecture is lecture number 17 is Physical Law and Infinitesimal Control Volume Based Differential Formulation. If you compare this topic with the previous topic, in the previous topic we have taken a finite control volume from which we have obtained an integral formulation, and we did an integral analysis of mass and momentum conservation law, where when we did an integral analysis of a momentum conservation law, we have obtained the net effect of a fluid flow, such as when a jet strikes on a vane, the overall effect is the force that acts on the vane or the blade. As compared to the previous topic, in this topic, if we solve the same problem, the jet striking on the vane, along with the overall effect that is corresponding to the forces acting on the vane, you can also obtain a much more detailed information of the fluid flow. You can also obtain point by point information about the velocities, pressure for the jet that is striking on the vane. So note that this differential formulation, which is introduced in this topic, has a much wider implications. It not only gives you the overall effect of a fluid flow, but it also gives you a detailed point-by-point informations. Because in a differential form, if you solve a differential equations, you get functions as a solution, and in this case, you get a solution which are flow properties like velocities, pressures, and temperature as a function of spatial and temporal coordinates. So the differential formulations give you the function for the flow properties as a solution. The velocities, pressures, and temperature is a function of spatial and temporal coordinate. So this gives you a much more detailed information about the fluid flow situation. So in this topic, the lecture number 17, we'll take a control volume which is extremely small. We'll do the derivation for Cartesian coordinate system. We'll start with the physical law, and then we'll take a small control volume. And as you know, that to derive the differential equations, we have to finally take the size of the control volume. We have to use limit delta x, delta y, delta t tending to 0. So we take an infinitesimal control volume and we'll derive the governing differential equations in fluid mechanics. So in this topic 6 on differential analysis of a fluid flow, this lecture number 17 is focused on the first two subsection, the physical law and infinitesimal control volume based differential formulations. So let us first start with the physical law. There are two types of physical law: fundamental law and subsidiary law. Fundamental laws are basically the conservation laws, and I'll also discuss the associated extensive and intensive property which you encounter when you consider the conservation laws. There are two types of law considered in fluid mechanics when you study fluid dynamics, using a continuum approach. So the fundamental laws are the conservation law, which corresponds to, when you study fluid mechanics, law of conservation of mass and law of conservation of momentum, which is basically the Newton's second law of motion. And since you are following a continuum approximation, where you are not studying the effect of individual molecule, there are some molecular molecule-based information which get lost. So you recover those information by using another law, which is called a subsidiary law. So this Newton's second law of motion, the subsidiary law is Newton's stress-strain rate relationship. So there are certain molecular information, like various fluid have certain property which corresponds to the stickiness between the different layers of the fluid. So the viscosity, that is a property corresponding to a fluid. It basically comes into, it has this effect based on the random motion of the molecule. Different fluid have different random motion of the molecule, and based on which they have a different fluid property that is called as viscosity. So since we are following a continuum approach, to recover those information, we use certain law which are called as subsidiary law, and in fluid dynamics, that law corresponds to a relationship between stress and strain rate. In solid mechanics, we have relationship between stress and strain, but in fluid mechanics, we have a relationship between stress and strain rate that is used as a subsidiary law in fluid dynamics. This slide shows you the conservation laws for the mass, momentum, and energy. This conservation law consists of, the left hand side consists of rate of change. I mentioned in my previous topic that this conservation laws was originally proposed for a fixed mass, but here in fluid mechanics, we do not use a fixed mass, that is a Lagrangian approach. Here we use a fixed region approach where we apply the conservation law, where this rate of change used in an Eulerian approach. This rate of change consists of two terms: the rate of change of mass, momentum stored inside the control volume. This is the first rate of change, and there is a second rate of change corresponding to rate of change of mass flow rate, x momentum flow rate, and y momentum flow rate living across the various surfaces of the control volume. So now this, when you consider the rate of change of mass, x momentum, and y momentum, this m corresponds is a symbol for mass, and mass is expressed in terms of density and volume of the control volume. So you can see that the mass depends on the volume, and the momentum is a product of mass and the velocity in the x direction, horizontal direction, that is u. This is the mass and the multiplied by velocity in the vertical direction, which is the y direction. So this is the y momentum. So this, since this the rate of change of mass, x momentum, and y momentum depends on mass and it depends on volume, the variables that you encountered while applying the first rate of change consist of terms which depends on volume. So they are called as volumetric terms. Whereas the second rate of change corresponding to rate of change of mass flow rate, x momentum flow rate, and y momentum flow rate living across the surfaces of the control volume. So the mass, this capital M, which is shown as a curved M, this is used as a symbol for mass. When I have a straight M, this is the symbol I am using here for mass flow rate. Now this mass flow rate is given by the dot product of the density multiplied by the velocity vector, and this is the surface area vector. Note that the mass flow rate, this is the mass flow rate, this is the x momentum flow rate, and this is the y momentum flow rate. X momentum flow rate is given as the product of mass flow rate into the velocity in the x direction, that's the horizontal velocity. Y momentum flow rate is given by the product of mass flow rate into the velocity in the vertical direction. So since the mass flow rate depends on the surface area, all these terms, mass flow rate, x momentum flow rate, and y momentum flow rate, all these three terms are expressed on a per unit area basis. So you have, later on I'll show you, we define terms called as mass flux and momentum flux. The rate of change of mass is equals to 0. The rate of change of momentum is equals to force that you obtain from the Newton's second law of motion. The momentum equation is a vector equation, and we always apply component by component. The rate of change of x momentum is equals to viscous force acting in the x direction plus pressure force acting in the x direction plus body force acting in the x direction. Similarly, this is the momentum equation for y direction, where the rate of change of momentum is equals to viscous plus pressure plus body force in the y direction. These are the viscous forces, pressure forces, and body forces. Now, when we talk of forces acting on a fluid control volume, there are two types of forces. Certain forces which depends on the surface area, and there are certain forces which depends on the volumes. Like if you consider a gravitational force, it is given by the product of mass and acceleration due to gravity, and mass depends on the volume. So this gravitational force, which is a body force, is a volumetric force. Whereas if you consider the other forces, like the force due to the pressure in a fluid, and the viscous force, this corresponds to, as I mentioned, that between the different layers of the fluid, when there is a relative velocity, there is a resistance between the different layers of the fluid due to a fluid property called as viscosity, due to which there is a force which is called as viscous force. This viscous force also acts on the surface area. So this viscous force and pressure force, they are surface force, whereas the body force due to gravity, electric field or magnetic field, it's a volumetric force. Later on I'll show you that you express this viscous force and pressure force in terms of force per unit area, that is stress. So we have viscous stress, which we can call it the viscous flux, and pressure is anyway in terms of per unit area, so it's a pressure flux. In your earlier course on thermodynamics, you have been introduced with extensive properties and intensive property, where you among various thermodynamic properties, you define the properties as extensive intensity based on mass. So what is intensive property in thermodynamics? Thermodynamic property which are independent of mass, and extensive properties are those properties which depends on mass. So in thermodynamics, you studied mass based extensive and intensive property, whereas in fluid dynamics, here I am introducing volume and surface area of the control volume based extensive and intensive properties. So because while applying the conservation law, as I had introduced in previous slide, there are certain terms which depends on volume, there are certain other terms which depends on surface area. So those variables which or while applying the conservation law, those variables which depends on volume, we'll call them volume based extensive properties, and the other variables which depends on surface area, we'll call them as surface area based extensive property. So these are the volume based extensive property that we encounter while applying the conservation law. So which are the variables which depends on volume? They are the mass, x momentum, y momentum, and body force. So these are the volume based extensive property, because these are the property which depends on the volume of the control volume. There are other terms which depend on the surface area. So the variables which depend on the surface area are shown here. They are mass flow rate, and the product of mass into velocity is a momentum. So similarly, we can call the product of mass into velocity as the product of mass flow rate into velocity. Note the comparison between the momentum and momentum flow rate. Velocity is common in both momentum and momentum flow rate. But what is varying is in momentum, you have a product with mass, and in momentum flow rate, you have a product with mass flow rate. So note that the momentum flow rate is a product of mass flow rate into velocity. Mass flow rate is a scalar. It is given by the dot product of the velocity and the surface area vector. So both momentum and momentum flow rate are vectors, and we apply component by component. So in Cartesian coordinate system, we have x momentum flow rate and y momentum flow rate. This expression are as shown here, where u is the velocity in the x direction, v is the velocity in the y direction. And as I mentioned, that when we consider the forces, body force depends on the volume, whereas the viscous force and pressure force depends on surface area. So these are the surface area based extensive property. So in this slide, I have shown you the extensive property that you encounter while applying the conservation law, which depends on volume. So this is the volume based extensive property, and this is the surface area based extensive property. Now, if you divide this term, volume based extensive property, by volume, then you get a variable which is independent of volume. Similarly, if you divide this surface area based extensive property by surface area, you get a term which is an intensive property. So in the next slide, I will show you the intensive property obtained by dividing this term by volume and dividing this term by surface area. So in this slide, in the earlier slide, we had volume and surface area based extensive property in previous slide. Here we have now intensive property. So the volume based intensive property is the variables divided by volume. So in the previous slide, this was mass. Here, when you divide by volume, I am calling this as volumetric mass. The difference between the previous slide and this slide is now all these variables have an over bar. So over bar is a symbol which represents per unit volume. So this is mass per unit volume, which is density. This is x momentum per unit volume, which is mass per unit volume multiplied by u velocity, which is density into u velocity. This is the volumetric y momentum. This is the volumetric body force. These are the body force divided by the volume of the control volume. So these are volume-based intensive property that is obtained by dividing the volume-based extensive property that I showed in previous slide by the volume of the control volume. Similarly, if you divide by the surface area, you get a flux term. So in the previous slide, you had mass flow rate. When you divide by surface area, you get a variable which is called as mass flux, which is a vector quantity. So the mass conservation law is a scalar law, and momentum conservation law is a vector law, because in momentum conservation law, you encounter the momentum and force, which are vector quantities. So the flux term, note that in a scalar mass flux you encounter in mass conservation law. So the flux term in a scalar law is a vector quantity. Now the flux term in a vector law, which is the momentum conservation law. Momentum flux and viscous stresses you encounter in momentum conservation law. Mass conservation law is a scalar law. Mass flux that is introduced in mass conservation law is mass flux is a vector quantity. So in a scalar law, that is a mass conservation law, the flux that is shown here as mass flux is a vector quantity. In a vector law, that is a momentum conservation law, the flux that gets introduced is the momentum flux and the viscous stresses. It's a second order tensor. There are two directions associated with the momentum flux. Note that there is no dot product or cross product between this m and u. In a 2D, I'll show you in the next slide. It has 4 components. So it has 2 directions. The first direction is associated with the direction of the mass flux, and the second direction is associated with the direction of the velocity. Okay, so the momentum flux is given, depends on the direction of mass flux, and it also depends on the direction of the velocity. Now, any vector law, we always apply component by component. And to obtain the x component, you take a dot product with I. So when you take the dot product of the second order tensor with I, you get x momentum flux. And when you take its dot product with j, you get a y momentum flux, which is shown here. Similarly, the stress is also a second order tensor, and because how do you distinguish between a normal stress and a shear stress? Stress may be acting in the same direction, but if it is tangential, then it's a shear stress, and if it is normal, then it's a normal stress. So that the difference between the normal and shear stress, what you need is an additional direction. The additional direction that corresponds to the direction of the plane. If the direction of the plane and direction of the stress are along the same direction, then it's a shear stress, and if it is normal, then it's a normal stress. So if the plane and the stress direction are same, then it's a normal stress, and if they are orthogonal, then it's a shear stress. I'll show this in detail in the next slide. So what I'm trying to point out is the moment in a vector, you need only one direction. In a scalar, you don't need any direction. Scalar is a zeroth order tensor. Vector is a first order tensor where you need one direction. And when you talk of second order tensor, which corresponds to the momentum flux and the viscous stress, in these cases, you need 2 directions. And for stress, you need the direction of the plane and direction of the stress. For momentum flux, you need the direction of the mass flux and the direction of the velocities. And here again, when you want to apply the x momentum conservation, then you consider viscous stress in x direction, where you take the dot product of the second order tensor with I, and for y momentum conservation, you take the dot product with j. Note that when you take a dot product of a vector, you get a scalar component like f, which may be a vector, which could be a force. F dot I give you the x component fx. Similarly, when you take a dot product of a second order tensor with a unit vector, vector gets converted into a scalar component when you take a dot product. When you take a dot product of a second order tensor, it gets converted into a vector quantity. Note that this is a vector quantity. I will show this in more detail in the next slide. So with this, I am showing you the flux term that is encountered, and I have highlighted that the flux term of a scalar law, mass conservation law, is a vector quantity, and the flux term of a vector law corresponding to the momentum conservation are the second order terms. You also encounter pressure as a flux term, which corresponds to the pressure force per unit area. This pressure always acts normal to the surface on any surface that was discussed in the previous lecture. So these are the volume-based intensive properties and the surface-based intensive property, which is obtained from the previous slide on extensive property by dividing by the volume, which is shown here, and by these terms are obtained by dividing the mass flow rate per unit area, momentum flow rate per unit area, viscous force per unit area. Now I will show you, I'll take control volume and show you the momentum flux and viscous stresses, which are second order tensor. So this slide shows you the viscous stresses acting on the control volume. These are normal stresses, and the direction of a plane is given by the outward normal. So in this case, the horizontal direction is the x direction and the vertical direction is the y direction. So for a vertical surface, the normal is along the x direction. The stress is also acting in the x direction. So this is sigma x6. The first subscript represents the direction of the plane. The second subscript represents the direction of the stress. These are normal stresses, and these are shear stresses. Note that the first subscript for both these stresses are acting on x plane. So the first subscript is x. However, this stress is acting in the x direction, whereas this stress is acting in the y direction. So if the direction of the plane and the direction of the stress are same, then this is a normal stress. If they are orthogonal, then it's shear stress. So a stress, viscous stress, is denoted by the direction of the plane and direction of the stress. So we need two directions, that's why it's a second order tensor. So this stress I have shown you for a two-dimensional control volume. So for a two-dimensional control volume, this viscous stress has four components: sigma xx and sigma yy, which are on the main diagonal, and you have other terms as sigma yx and sigma xy. And when you want to use this viscous stress in the x momentum conservation, because later on we'll apply the momentum conservation law component by component. So when we apply the x momentum conservation, then we need to obtain the stress in the x direction. That is obtained by taking the dot product of this sigma with a unit vector in the x direction, that is I. And for y momentum conservation, we take this stress and take its dot product with j. Now here note that the mathematical definition of this dot product sigma dot I is given by, you take the first column of this second order tensor and write it in terms of a vector. Okay, so the second order tensor, when you take a dot product, it gets converted into a vector. So this is sigma xxi plus sigma yxj. And when you take a dot product with j, this is sigma xyi plus sigma yj. So this is, note that this is a mathematical definition of a dot product of a second order tensor with a unit vector in the x direction and y direction. So this I had shown you for a viscous stress. Note that both pressure and viscous stress, both pressure is also a stress along with this viscous stress. I am showing you, I'm not using a general term as stress. I am showing separately the viscous stress and pressure as separately as pressure force per unit area. So here I had introduced the viscous stress as a second order tensor. Now I will introduce this momentum flux as a second order tensor. Now when we talk about momentum flux, I have mentioned that there are two directions which are involved: the direction of mass flux and the direction of the velocity. You can see the Here you have mx, which is the mass flux in the x direction. This u is velocity along the x direction. So you can, the direction of the mass flux and the velocity along the same direction. So this arrow is shown normal is there along the u is a horizontal velocity, mx is also horizontal, and the arrow is shown, both are in the horizontal direction, the arrow is shown horizontal. Here also you have mxu, the arrow is shown horizontal. Here you have my, which is mass flux in the vertical direction, the v velocity is also in vertical directions, both are in the vertical direction, the arrow is shown vertical. Okay, so in this case, the direction of mass flux and the velocity is same, analogous to the normal stress. So these are the momentum fluxes corresponding to mass fluxes and velocities which are in the same direction. However, you have cases where you have the product of mass flux and velocities which are in the orthogonal direction. Such as in this case, you can see mx is the mass flux in the x direction, whereas the v velocity is in the vertical directions. Similarly, you can see here my is the mass flux in the vertical direction and u is the velocity in the x direction. So in this cases, what I have shown by this pink zigzag arrows corresponds to cases where the direction of mass flux and the velocity are orthogonal. So this are shown by a zigzag arrow. Why I am showing this as a zigzag arrow, I'll discuss this in later slides. But so I'm trying to, so this way you can see that in a two-dimensional problem, two-dimensional Cartesian coordinate system, this m vector u vector, which is a second order tensor, has four components: mxu, myu, mxv, myv. Where again, to apply x momentum conservation, you need x momentum flux. So you take a dot product of this with I, and this is again given by the first column, that is mxui plus myuj, which is given here. And when you want to apply for y momentum conservation, you take a dot product with j, then it becomes mxvi plus myvj as shown here. So with this, I had shown you the two stress terms that we encounter while applying the momentum conservation law, the viscous stress and the momentum flux. For a 2D Cartesian coordinate system, they have four components. In 3D problems, it has 9 components. And these are sigma dot I and mu dot I is used while applying the x momentum conservation, and sigma dot j and mu dot j is used while applying the y momentum conservation later on while deriving the governing differential equation for x momentum conservation and y momentum conservation. So I started with conservation law and I discussed the associated two types of terms like volumetric term and the flux term. And I mentioned that along with this conservation law, you also need certain subsidiary law because you are following a continuum approximation where certain molecule-based information is lost, and to recover that information, we use this additional law, subsidiary law, which in fluid mechanics corresponds to stress-strain rate relationship, which is given by this expression, where when I show sigma, I mean viscous stresses, but I had mentioned other than viscous stress, pressure is also a stress term. So the combination of pressure and the viscous stress, the stress-strain rate relationship. Note that this epsilon dot is the symbol corresponding to strain rate. In solids, you have stress directly proportional to strain, whereas in fluid mechanics, stress is directly proportional to strain rates. Okay, so this is the total normal stress, which consists of pressure as a stress, and this viscosity appears along with the strain rates. This total term corresponds to the sigma xx, which is normal viscous stress in the x direction. This term corresponds to sigma yy, which is, so when we have sigma, this is the viscous stresses. And viscous stresses plus pressure, the normal viscous, note that pressure is acts always normal. So pressure is always normal stress. So this pressure appears in sigma xx and sigma yy. It doesn't appear in the shear stress which is shown here. Okay, so for normal stresses, we have a combination of the viscous stresses and pressure, and in this strain rate, so from this expression, we can get a relationship between viscous stress and strain rate, which is shown here. This is the viscous stress, normal viscous stress in the x direction, which is equals to 2 mu epsilon dot xx. This is the strain rate in the horizontal direction, x direction. Sigma yy is equals to 2 mu epsilon dot yy. This is the strain rate in the vertical direction. So these are the normal viscous stress, which is shown as directly proportional to the normal strain rates. This is the expression for the shear viscous stress, which is directly proportional to the shear strain rates. This is the shear stress and this is the shear strain rate. And the constant proportionality is 2 mu. So with this I had presented the physical law, where I showed you two types of law, conservation law and the subsidiary law. And while presenting the conservation law, I have introduced two types of terms while applying the conservation law. So it's like there are two basket of terms. There are certain terms which depends on the volume, which we call as volumetric term, and there are certain other terms which depends on surface area, which we call as flux term. And in fluid mechanics, we apply two conservation law, mass conservation law and momentum conservation law. Mass conservation law is a scalar law. Momentum conservation law is a vector law. The flux that you encounter while applying the mass conservation law is a vector term. The flux that you encounter while applying the momentum conservation law is a second order tensor, such as momentum flux and the viscous stresses. However, any vector law, we always apply component by component. So when you take the dot product of the second order tensor, which is a flux in the vector law, when you take a dot product, the second order tensor gets converted into a vector. So finally, when you apply component by component, like for x momentum and y momentum separately, the momentum flux in x direction and momentum flux in y direction are the vector term which are used as a flux in the x and y momentum conservation. So after the physical law, what we do is that we start with the physical law, then we'll take an infinitesimal control volume and we will apply the physical law to this small control volume. And as you have studied at any definition of any differential term like df by dx, it's defined as f at x plus delta x minus f at x divided by delta x, limit delta x tends to 0. So we take a control volume, like in a 2D problem, we'll take a control volume of it delta x delta y, and finally we will apply the limit delta x delta y tends to 0 to get a derivative term. So we take an infinitesimal control volume, we'll apply the mass and momentum conservation law, and so the mass, using the mass conservation law, the differential equation that we derive is called as continuity equation, whereas for momentum conservation law based differential formulation is called as momentum equation. So I will show you the derivation of the differential equation, which are based on first the physical law and infinitesimal control volume. So let us start with applying the first law, that is the mass conservation law. And so this slide will show you the mass conservation law based differential formulation, and that is which is called as continuity equation. This is the law of conservation of mass, where we have rate of change of mass is equals to 0. The rate of change in fluid mechanics consists of two terms as mentioned earlier. Since we are following a constant region approach, Eulerian approach, the rate of change of mass stored inside the control volume plus the net mass flow rate leaving across the surface of the control volume. Let us take the first term, which is called as unsteady term, the rate of change of mass stored inside the control volume. Always note that the differential equations that are derived here corresponds various terms of the differential equations which are derived in this topic represents conservation law per unit volume. So although the statement is rate of change of mass stored inside the control volume, but when we express it in a differential term, this is per unit volume. So What is mass per unit volume? It's a density. So this, the rate of change of mass per unit volume. Note that this is the rate of change of mass stored inside the control volume per unit volume. So when you take mass per unit volume is a density. So del rho by del T is a differential representation of the first rate of change. The second rate of change, for to calculate the second rate of change, we take a control volume as shown here of with delta x delta y, and we represent the mass flow rate. So now the mass flow rate that we show here are on the positive faces, that is the right face and top face. The positive faces corresponds to those faces where the outward normal vector is in the positive. Like if you draw the outward normal vector, it is in the positive x direction. So this is the positive surface. If you take left surface, the outward normal is in the negative x direction. So this is a negative surface. So the arrows that we draw on the positive surfaces, the mass flux is shown in the positive x. The mass flow rate is outward. In the negative faces, the mass flow rates are shown as inward. So we represent the mass flow rates going outward from the positive faces and coming inward from the negative faces. Now this surface is called as x. This surface is called as x plus delta x. This surface is called as y. This surface is called as y plus delta y. Left surface x, right surface x plus delta x, bottom surface y, top surface y plus delta y. So when I write m subscript x, this is the mass flow rate on surface x. When I write mx plus delta x, this is the mass flow rate on the surface x plus delta x. Now for small m, there are two directions. The first direction represents the direction of the mass flux. When I have mx here, this is the mass flux in the x direction. If I have my here, this is the mass flux in the y direction. Okay, so for the mass flux, there are two subscripts shown here. The first subscript represents the direction of the mass flux. The second subscript represents the direction of the surface area. However, note that mass flux is not a second order tensor, although for the convenience of derivation, I am showing you with two subscripts, but these two subscripts are separated by a comma. Okay, so when there are two m, one small m is the mass flux, capital M is the mass flow rate. This small m is a vector term, so I need its direction also. That's why there are two subscripts for mass flux, whereas this mass flow rate is a scalar quantity and it has only one subscript. So here we have to opt. So the mass here I am expressing the mass flow rate as the product of mass flux and the surface area. Note that we are taking a 2D control volume of which delta x, delta y, and the delta z we are considering as unity for a 2D Cartesian control volume. So the surface area for this surface, the area is delta y into 1. So mass flux when you multiply by surface area, which is delta y for this vertical surface, this is all, for this vertical surface also is delta y. The product of mass flux in the x direction into delta y gives you the mass flow rate in the x direction, the mass flow rate on the right and left surfaces. Similarly, the product of mass flux in the y direction multiplied by the surface area on the bottom and top surface, that is delta x, gives you the mass flow rate. Now here we have to calculate the net mass flow rate leaving the surface of the control volume. So you will take the difference of what is leaving minus what is entering, because you have to calculate net mass flow rate leaving. This will become capital M x plus delta x minus mx plus my minus my plus delta y minus my. So if you express in terms of small m, this will be m x plus delta x, m at x, delta y. Now you have got mass flow rate as a product of mass flux into surface area, but to get a derivative term, you need to divide it by volume. Then only the surface area divided by volume give you a length scale in the denominator, and you take the limit of that length scale and you get a derivative. So this here it was rate of change of mass stored inside the control volume. Here we have divided by the volume. This also will divide by volume. So the net mass flow rate leaving across the surface of the control volume is given by what is given in the numerator, and we divide by the volume. Note that the volume of this control volume is delta x into delta y. So we obtain the net mass flow rate leaving across the surface under control volume divided by the volume. So this is, so here you can see that the surface area cancels down. This is the surface area, this is the volume. Surface area divided by volume give you a length scale. That length scale in the denominator which finally appears, this delta y cancels down and you get a delta x in the denominator, and you take the limit of delta x tends to 0, then you get this. So this term gets converted into del y del x of mx. This term gets converted into del y del y of my. So this is the total net mass flow rate leaving across the surface of the control volume, which is called as outflux, net mass outflux per unit volume. So this del dot m vector is the net mass outflux per unit volume. So this term divided by volume, this term divided by volume, which we have obtained in a differential form, is as this. So this is equal to del rho by del t. This is del dot m. Okay, so finally we have obtained the differential formulation, mass conservation law based differential formulation, which is shown here. However, as a mechanical engineer, most of the time we encounter fluids which are incompressible. So for incompressible flow, density is not a function of space and time. So if density is not a function of time, this term becomes 0. And if it is not a function of space, this comes out of, you can take it out. And finally, for an incompressible flow, the continuity equation is given as del dot u is equals to 0. So this is in a 2D problem. This is del u by del x plus del v by del y is equals to 0. Note that here I will show you the derivation of the differential formulation. I will show you for incompressible flow. So this is the final equation that we'll be using, because as a mechanical engineer, most of the time we encounter the incompressible flow. So the continuity equation that is finally, which I will show you in the final formulation, is corresponding to the incompressible flow, which corresponds to del dot u is equals to 0. So with this, I had come to the end of the derivation of that is corresponding to mass conservation law based differential formulation, which is called as continuity equation, which is given as del dot u is equals to 0. Now, after the mass conservation, let us consider the momentum conservation. Note that in the mass conservation law, right hand side is 0. But in the momentum conservation law, the right hand side corresponds to the force term. In the left hand side, instead of mass, you have momentum, and instead of mass flow rate, you have momentum flow rate. So I will show you the derivation of momentum equation term by term. So let us first start with differential formulation of the unsteady term of the momentum conservation law, which corresponds to the first rate of change of momentum stored inside the control volume. And as I mentioned, that whenever we do differential formulation, we apply the conservation law and divide by the volume. So what is the expression for x momentum? The x momentum is given by the product of mass into u velocities. But when you divide by the volume, it becomes mass momentum divided by volume will give you mass divided by volume, which is density, into u velocity. So the rate of change of x momentum stored inside the control volume per unit volume is del by del t of rho u. The rate of change of y momentum stored inside the control volume per unit volume will be del by del t of rho v. If you don't divide by the volume, instead of rho, you will get mass. But once you divide by the volume, you get rho here. So this is the unsteady term corresponding to the first rate of change in the momentum equation, the rate of change of momentum stored inside the control volume. Along with this rate of change, there is a second rate of change, the rate of change of net momentum flow rate leaving across the surface of the control volume. Here again, we'll divide by the volume, which will be shown in the next slide. This slide shows you the differential formulation for the x momentum flux. Note that we are now momentum conservation law, mass conservation law. We have applied because mass conservation law is a scalar law, so we applied directly. Momentum conservation law is a vector law, and in the previous slide I had shown you separately for the x momentum and y momentum. In this slide, I am showing you the differential formulation for which involves x momentum flow rate or x momentum flux. So in this slide, I will show you the x momentum flow rate leaving across the surfaces of the control volume per unit volume. Here, note that it's a product of, this is mass flux, this is the surface area, and this is the velocity in the x direction. Mass flux into surface area gives you the mass flow rate. The mass flow rate into u velocity gives you the momentum, x momentum flow rate. This is the x momentum flow rate which is entering from the left surface. This is the x momentum flow rate which is leaving from the right surface. Note that here the mx and u both are in the horizontal direction, so the arrow is horizontal. Whereas the mass flux which acts on this horizontal surface, the mass flux in the is in the y direction, whereas you want to calculate the x momentum flow rate. Note that here again, this is the mass flux in the y direction, vertical direction. This is the surface area. The product of these two gives you the mass flow rate. The mass flow rate multiplied by, this is the velocity in the x direction. Mass flow rate in the velocity in the x direction, this is the x momentum flux. It is as if like, let us suppose you are moving in a river which is flowing in this direction, and you are moving in, so the fluid is moving in this direction in a river, and let us suppose you are moving in this horizontal direction. So let us suppose you are corresponding to this u velocity where you are moving in the horizontal direction, and the water in the river has a stream, has a mass flux which is moving on the vertical direction. So you might have seen that if you move in a river in a perpendicular direction of the stream of the flow, you get dragged inside by the flowing stream. That's why this is shown by a zigzag arrow, where finally you can see that the direction of the arrow is along the horizontal direction. Whenever we apply the x momentum conservation law, note that finally the sense of the arrow that is shown will be in the x direction. And for y momentum conservation, the sense of the arrows will be shown in the y direction. So this is the x momentum flow rate corresponding to mass flux and velocities which are orthogonal to each other. That's why they are shown by zigzag arrow. This is the x momentum flow rate entering from the bottom surface. This is the x momentum flow rate entering from the left surface. This is the x momentum flow rate leaving from the right surface, and this is the x momentum flow rate leaving from the top surface. Here again, the direction of the mass flux is vertical, the direction of the velocity is horizontal. So that's why it is shown by zigzag arrow. So this mass flow rate is like a driver, and this u velocity is like a passenger, which gets advected by the, driven by this transport mechanism. There are two types of transport mechanism. The mass flow, the bulk flow of the fluid based transport, which corresponds to reduction, which is shown here. And in the previous slide, I had shown you the product of, for mass conservation law, I have shown you the product of mass flux into surface area. In this slide, you can see that the difference between the previous slide on mass conservation and x momentum conservation is you have an additional term corresponding to u. But the procedure that we used in the previous slide for mass conservation law, we have to calculate, the previous slide we have obtained net mass flow rate leaving across the control volume, across the surface of the control volume. Here we have to obtain net x momentum flow rate leaving across the surface of the control volume. So to calculate net, we'll take the difference of this with this, and difference of this with this, and we will divide by volume, where this surface area divided by volume gives you a length scale in the denominator, and finally we'll obtain the differential term. So when you take the difference of this minus this, divide by delta x delta y cancels down, and you get a delta x in the denominator as shown here. Similarly, when you take the difference of the x momentum flow rate from the top and bottom surface and divide by the volume, this delta x cancels down and you get a delta y in the denominator. And when you take the limit, you get del by del x of mxu plus del by del y of myu, where finally you can express the final differential formulation. You can express it in a vector form as del dot mu. Okay, where this m is a vector quantity and this is the scalar component of the horizontal component of the velocity. This is a x momentum flux, which is a vector. So the differential formulation for the second rate of change in an exponential equation is del dot mu. So in this slide, I have shown you for the x momentum conservation law. In the next slide, I will show you for y momentum conservation law. And here I will show you the y momentum flow rate leaving across the surfaces of the control volume. And we'll divide by the volume to get a differential term. So this is the, this is, m is the mass flux, delta x the surface area. The product of mass flux into surface area is mass flow rate. Mass flow rate multiplied with the velocity in the vertical direction is the y momentum flow rate. So this is the y momentum flow rate entering. This is the y momentum flow rate leaving. This is the surface y. This is the surface y plus delta y. This is v is the velocity at surface y. This v is the vertical velocity on the y plus delta y. Note that velocities I am not showing as ux, uy. I am showing u as the velocity in the x direction, v as the velocity in the y direction. So that's why there are not two subscript for the direction of velocity is given by different symbols, not by subscript. So u is the velocity in the x direction, v is the velocity in the y direction. And the subscript that is used with v velocity corresponds to the surface area. This v velocity is on surface area y. This v velocity is on the surface area y plus delta y. Here the mass flux and the velocity both are vertical, so the arrow is shown here as vertical. Whereas this is also a y momentum flow rate which is entering, and this is the y momentum flow rate which is leaving. However, in this y momentum flow rate, the direction of mass flux is horizontal, whereas the direction of the velocity is vertical. So for the y momentum flow rate from the left and right surfaces, they are represented by the zigzag arrows. And finally, to calculate net momentum, y momentum flow rate which is leaving, we'll take the difference of this with this and this with this, and finally to get a differential term, we will divide by the volume, so that the surface area divided by volume gives you a length scale in the denominator, and then we take the limit of that length scale to get a derivative term. And the final differential formulation is given as del dot mv, where this is the y momentum flux. So note that in mass conservation, we have obtained del dot m mass flux. And in the previous slide, it was del dot x momentum flux. Here it is del dot y momentum flux. So for any flux term, when we do differential formulation, effectively we calculate net mass flow rate, momentum flow rate leaving. And that net, when we divide by volume, it consists of flux multiplied by surface area divided by volume. Surface area divided by volume gives you a length scale. And so you should realize the commonality between the derivation that I did in previous slides, where I showed you del dot m, del dot mu, here in this slide del dot mv. Note that the statements were similar. For mass conservation, you obtain del dot m as a, which represents, del dot m represent net x mass, net mass flow rate leaving across the surface of the control volume per unit volume. In the previous slide, del dot mu represent net x momentum flow rate leaving the surface of the control volume per unit volume. Here in this slide, this term represent net y momentum flow rate leaving across the surface of the control volume per unit volume. So these are net outflux term. Along with the rate of change of momentum, in the previous slide I had shown you for two rate of change, the rate of change stored and the rate of change of momentum flow rate leaving across the surface of the control volume. And when you substitute those, and on the right hand side you have forces, and the forces are of two types. There are certain forces which are proportional to the volume of the control volume. Those forces are called as body forces. They correspond to gravitational force, centrifugal force, force due to electric and magnetic field. So in fluid mechanics, the forces are categorized into two types: body forces, which are proportional to volume, which are shown, and these are those forces which are proportional to volume. The forces which are proportional to surface area are the viscous force and the pressure force. So when you substitute the differential formulation for the two rate of change, this is the first rate of change which is corresponds to the unsteady term which we had derived in the previous slide. This is the second rate of change where for x momentum you take this mu dot I, so you get m u dot I is u, and when you use here u dot j is v. Okay, so this m vector is so from this is a general form of the equation. So this is the rate of change of uh, momentum stored inside the control volume. This is the rate of change of momentum flow rate leaving across the surface of the control volume. And on the right hand side, this is the surface force and this is the body force per unit volume. Now, when you want to use it for x momentum, this here it's a vector. You take the x component, which is u. Here also this becomes x component. Here this m becomes mx here, and here it becomes my. Mx is rho into u velocity. My is rho into v velocity. So, so for x momentum, this is actually del dot and u scalar component, and here it is del dot and v, which is expressed in this form. So this is an expanded form of the left hand side corresponding to the two rate of change which we have derived in the previous slide. Now I will show you the derivation of the right hand side corresponding to the surface force, which are viscous force and the pressure force per unit volume and the body force per unit volume. So I'll first show you the derivation, differential formulation for the viscous stress, then I will show you the differential formulation for the pressure. So these are the, I will show you separately for the viscous forces acting in the x direction. So these are the viscous forces acting in the x direction. Sigma is the viscous stress. These are the normal stresses, sigma xx, and sigma yx is the shear stress. Delta y is the surface area of the vertical surface, delta x is the surface area of the horizontal surface. Now, when you want to calculate net viscous force in the positive x direction, this will be given the arrows that are shown here. For the mass flow rate, the arrows are for the positive surface, it was outward, and for the negative surface, it was inward. When we show the forces in the negative surface, we show the forces in the negative direction. In the positive surface, we show the forces in the positive direction. So that's why the direction of this viscous forces on the right and top surface, which are positive surface, are shown in the positive x direction, whereas in the negative surfaces, that is left and bottom, it is shown in the negative x direction. And the respective stresses are multiplied by the appropriate surface area. When you want to obtain the net viscous force in the positive x direction, then you have to take the summation of these two and you have to subtract by these two. And finally, to get a differential term, you have to again divide by the volume. So when the viscous force in x direction per unit volume is given by this expression. When you divide by the volume, the delta y cancels down and you get a delta x in the denominator. And for the second term, which is corresponding to this, when you divide by the volume, delta x cancels down and you get a delta y in the denominator. So the differential formulation, which is corresponding to the viscous force in x direction per unit volume, is given by, I'll show you later at the end. The viscous force in the y direction is expressed here. And here again, if you take the difference and divide by the volume, you get a term, you get a differential term, where in this case it is del dot sigma dot I. Basically it is del by del x of sigma xx plus sigma dot I is basically sigma xxi plus sigma yxj, and del dot sigma dot I is given by del by del x of sigma xx plus del by del y of sigma yx. This is del by del x of sigma xy plus del by del y of sigma yy, which is given by del dot sigma dot j. So sigma dot I is the gives you this viscous stresses in the x direction, sigma xxi plus sigma yxj. Sigma dot j gives you the viscous stress sigma xi plus sigma yj. So this way you have got del dot sigma as the so sigma. Here again, note that we are obtaining the del dot flux term, which is corresponding to the viscous stresses. Earlier, the flux was mass flux, momentum flux. In this slide, the flux is viscous stress. So this is the viscous force acting in the x direction per unit volume. This is the viscous force acting in the y direction per unit volume. So these are the component. If you want to express it in a vector quantity, it is given by this. It can be expressed in this form. So the viscous force as a vector is given by del dot sigma. Now you have obtained expression in terms of stresses, but finally when we want to derive differential equations, we want to express in terms of not stresses but in terms of velocities. We have already got an expression for mass flux and momentum flux in terms of velocities. We also want to convert this viscous stresses in terms of velocities. In the previous topic on fluid kinematics, um, uh, I had shown you in the previous slide, sigma xx equals to 2 mu epsilon dot xx, sigma yy is equals to 2 mu epsilon dot yy. And in the previous topic on fluid kinematics, I have shown you that the strain rates, the normal strain rate in the x direction is equal to del u by del x. The normal strain rate in the y direction is del v by del y. The shear strain rate is 1 by 2 del v by del x plus del u by del y. So when you substitute this the strain rates here, you can finally obtain this viscous stresses, normal viscous stresses, and this shear viscous stresses as this. So this sigma xx equals to 2 mu del u by del x, sigma yy is 2 mu del v by del y, and this sigma xy is equal to sigma yx equals to mu del v by del x plus del u by del y. So we have converted the stresses in terms of velocity gradient due to the fact that we want to get a final expression not in terms of fluxes but in terms of velocities. We have already obtained the relationship of the mass flux and momentum flux with velocities, and in this slide we have converted the another flux, that is the viscous stresses, in terms of velocity gradient, and we substitute this and finally obtain the viscous stress, finally obtain the viscous forces in terms of velocity gradient, not in terms of the del dot sigma. So del dot sigma will get instead of since this viscous stresses are functions of velocity gradients, when you so the del dot sigma will finally result into the second derivative of this velocity gradients, which will be shown a little later. However, for an incompressible flow, as I mentioned, that this derivation is presented here for an incompressible flow, where in continuity equation the final expression that will be presented is del dot u is equals to 0 for mass conservation continuity equation. Here again, for an incompressible flow, you can further simplify the viscous stresses that I will show you here. So here in this slide, I am showing you the simplified differential formulation for viscous stresses for incompressible flow. In the previous slide, I have shown you the expression for viscous stress. This is applicable for compressible as well as incompressible flow. However, this expression can be simplified for incompressible flow, that is shown in the next slide. So when you substitute the expression for sigma xx, that is 2 mu del u by del x, and sigma yx is mu del u by del x plus del u by del y. This can be further simplified because for an incompressible flow, where we'll apply the mass conservation equation del u by del x plus del v by del y is equal to 0 and obtain a simplified form of this viscous stresses. What we will do is to simplify this expression, what we'll take one of this two, that is we'll take mu del u by del x from this term, and from this we will take mu del v by del x, and I will show you that the combination of these two, when we do the differential formulation, results in 0. So that way, finally, the simplified form that I will show you is sigma xx equals to not 2 mu del u by del x, and sigma yx equals to mu del u by del y. So what I'm basically doing is I'm showing you I'm taking one of, here you have one of this term, here mu del u by del x, and here mu del v by del x. So if you take one of this mu del u by del x and present a differential formulation, so here you will get mu del u by del x at x plus delta x minus mu del u by del x at x multiplied by delta y, and here we are taking one of this term mu del v by del x. Okay, so if you do this, finally what happens is, and you take delta x delta y as common, so delta this term becomes mu del square u by del x square. This term becomes mu del square v by del x del y, which is given as this. And when you take mu del u by del x common, you get del u by del x plus del v by del y, and this is equals to del dot u, which for incompressible flow, this is a continuity equation. And in a continuity equation for incompressible flow, we have obtained an equation which says del u by del x plus del v by del y equals to 0. So this term is 0. So that way, while doing the differential formulation, we can avoid, so instead of 2, we can use 1s, and we can avoid this del v by del x, because the differential formulation corresponding to these two terms, we are showing that it leads to 0. So that way, we obtain a simplified form of the viscous stresses, which are shown here. So in the previous slide, I have taken the general viscous stress which is applicable for both compressible and incompressible flow. Here you have 2, and here you have also an additional term mu del v by del x. But in previous slide, I had shown you that those additional term plus mu del v by del x and one more mu del u by del x, the combination of those two leads to a differential term which is 0. So that way, this is the simplified form of the viscous stress, which is expressed as normal viscous stress in the x direction is mu del u by del x, shear viscous stress in the x direction is mu del u by del y. So the viscous stress in the x direction, which is sigma x dot I, is given by mu del u by del x I plus mu del u by del y j. So this is the simplified differential formulation for the viscous stresses, where for this simplification corresponds to the incompressible flow, where we have applied the continuity equation del u by del x plus del v by del y is equals to 0. This I had shown you for x momentum conservation. Similarly, you can do for y momentum conservation, where we have now, previous slide it was 2 mu del u by del x. Here it is 2 mu del v by del y for one momentum conservation. So we'll take one of these two, and we'll take del u by del y from here, and the combination of these two will lead us to a differential formulation, which using continuity equation will lead us to 0. Because when you do a differential formulation, this becomes equal to mu del square v by del y square, and this will become del square u by del x del y as shown here. So we take this one of this term for simplification, and this del u by del y at x plus delta x minus this as at x divided by, you take delta x delta y common, and then this term, when you apply limit delta x tends to 0, this will become mu del square u by del x del y, and when you apply limit delta y tends to 0, you get mu del square v by del y square, which is shown here. And here if you take mu del u by del y is equals to common, you get del u by del x plus del v by del y, which from continuity equation is equals to 0. So in the next slide, we will not consider this del v by del y, one of this del v by del y, and we will not consider this del u by del y, and we express a simplified form of the viscous stresses for an incompressible flow, which is expressed in terms of only one, the sigma yy is mu del v by del y, and sigma xy is mu del v by del x. Note that this simplification is such that the viscous stresses are expressed in terms of, here you can say this sigma xy is acting on the vertical surface. What is the direction of the vertical surface? It's the x direction. So the viscous stress is expressed in terms of normal gradient of v velocity. In this slide, the viscous stresses in the y direction is represented in terms of normal gradient of v velocity. Note that the x direction, sigma xy, is acting in the vertical surface. The x is normal to the surface. Here the gradient you are taking with respect to y. Sigma yy is acting on the horizontal surface, and y is the normal direction. So these are normal gradients of v velocity. So the viscous stresses in the y direction are expressed in terms of normal gradient of v velocities. In the previous slide, the viscous stresses in the x direction are expressed in terms of normal gradient of u velocities. So the simplified form of the viscous stresses in the y direction is mu del v by del x plus mu del v by del y. Mu del v by del x I plus mu del v by del y j. Note that sigma is a second order tensor. When you take a dot product, it's a vector quantity, this is a vector quantity. So we started this momentum conservation law application component by component we are applying. We start with the unsteady term, then which corresponds to the first rate of change, and we got del dot m vector u in the x momentum, del dot m vector v for the y momentum. Then we went into the viscous stresses where we got del dot sigma dot I for x momentum, del dot sigma dot j for y momentum, and this sigma dot I and sigma dot j we are expressing in terms of the velocity gradient. Earlier we have got the velocity gradient which involves two terms, but we have simplified it where it consists of only a single term, and it is expressed in a more general form, more simplified form, where the viscous stresses in the x direction is expressed in terms of normal gradient of u velocity and the viscous stress in the y direction is shown here in terms of normal gradient of v velocity. When we say normal, it means surface normal, and the constant of proportionality is the dynamic viscosity for the viscous stresses. So whatever I have shown you is summary is shown in this slide, where the differential formulation for the net momentum flow rate in the x and y direction, leaving the surfaces of the control volume, per unit volume is del dot x momentum flux, del dot y momentum flux, del dot viscous stresses in the x direction, del dot viscous stresses in the y direction, and finally the sigma dot I we have got we have expressed as a mu del u, and when we further operate del dot del mu del u is mu del square u, and this are basically representing viscous forces in the x and y, in the positive x and y directions per unit volume. Note that each differential term are obtained by dividing by the volume of the control volume. And here I will also show you the arrows. So these are the x momentum flow rates, and the x momentum flux is obtained by taking the dot product of momentum flux, which is a second order tensor with a I unit vector, and the dot product of a second order tensor with a vector give you a vector. So this is the x momentum flow rate, this is the y momentum flow rate, and these are the viscous stresses acting in the x direction, these are the viscous stresses acting in the y direction. Sigma dot I is consists of the viscous stresses acting in the x direction. Note that the second stress subscript is x in this, the second subscript is y, which corresponds to the direction of the stress. Note that the final sense of the arrow is horizontal in these two cases, corresponding to x momentum, and for y momentum, the final sense of arrow is vertical. So this is corresponding to the second rate of change, and this is corresponding to the viscous stresses. But along with viscous stresses, we also have the pressure as a stress term. So this slide shows you the differential formulation for pressure force in x and y direction per unit volume. The pressure force acts normal. So if you take a Cartesian control volume, on all the four faces it acts normal, but we will, for x momentum, I will show you the pressure forces only along the x direction. Pressure force acts normal and it is always compressive, so it is shown inward. So if you want to calculate net pressure force acting in the positive x direction, this will be given by pressure, this pressure minus this capital P is the pressure force, which is given by the product of pressure which is acting on a surface x. Note that pressure is a scalar, so and the subscript that is shown here corresponds to the surface. So this pressure is acting on a surface x, this pressure is acting on, this is the pressure acting on the x plus delta x. So if you want to calculate net pressure force acting in the positive x direction, this will be this minus this. So this is, and when you divide by the volume, delta y cancels down, and you take, when you take the limit delta x tends to 0, you will get minus del p by del x. So For the x momentum, the differential formulation is minus del p by del x, which is can be expressed as minus grad of p dot I. Similarly, for y momentum equation, when you obtain the net pressure force acting in the positive y direction and divide by the volume, then here delta x cancels down and you get minus del p by del y. This is the differential formulation for the net pressure force acting in the y direction per unit volume minus del p by dot j. So we have done term by term differential formulation for the momentum equations, and where we have two terms on the left hand side and we have two terms on the right hand side. And finally, when we show it together, then this is presented in this slide as a governing differential equation for x momentum conservation law, and that differential equation is called as x momentum equation. This is the term. Note that each of the differential term corresponds to per unit volume. So this term represents this differential term represents the net x momentum stored inside the control volume per unit volume. This is the net x momentum flow rate leaving the surface of the control volume per unit volume of the control volume. So these are the two terms. This is the first rate of change, which is the mass, the momentum stored, x momentum stored. This is the second rate of change, which corresponds to the net x momentum flow rate leaving across the surface of the control volume. So on the left hand side, we have these two rate of change, and on the right hand side, we have forces. This is the viscous force acting in the x direction per unit volume. This is the pressure force acting in the positive x direction per unit volume. So this slide shows you all the terms. In the previous slide, I had shown you term by term. Here I am showing you all the terms. This is for x momentum equation. Here again, you can notice that all the arrows that is shown here for the x momentum flow rate, the viscous stresses, the pressure, all the arrows are in the x direction. Similarly, for the y momentum equations, this is the rate of change of y momentum of the fluid stored inside the control volume. This is the net y momentum flow rate leaving across the surface of the control volume per unit volume. This is the net viscous force acting in the y direction. This is the net pressure force acting in the y direction. All the arrows here again, you can see final sense of the arrows are in the y direction. So the final equation, the mass conservation law lead us to the mass conservation law based differential formulation is this continued equation. And the momentum conservation law based differential formulation lead us to this momentum equation. For incompressible flow, the continuity equation, the momentum equation for incompressible flow together is called as Navier-Stokes equations. So for incompressible flow, this is the continuity equation obtained from mass conservation law, and we have done this differential formulation using the mass conservation law and the control law. This is the differential formulation for momentum equation, where we have obtained first in terms of fluxes, and the fluxes, when you convert it in terms of velocity gradients, velocities, you finally obtain this expression. This is the note that this is del dot mu, which you can convert into two terms, m dot del u, and that del u from if you apply continuity equation, this there are two terms when you expand it, but one of the term gets 0 by the continuity equation, and you get the other term which is given as this. So this is the momentum equation for an incompressible flow, and in the next slide I will show you the expanded form of this continuity equation and the momentum equation. This is the x momentum equation. I am showing you the expanded form, where mx equal to rho u, my is equals to rho v, and del square u is del square u by del x square plus del square u by del y square. Similar, this is the y momentum equation. Note that this momentum equation can be like a fill in the box type of problem, where you can see that there are two boxes that I am showing you, the smaller box and the bigger box. And you can see outside the box, the term which is shown in both the equations are same. Here you have del by del t of rho. Here you have basically del by del t of rho u. This is basically mx. Del by del y of rho b, which is basically my. So this mx is common to both, my is common to both, rho is common to both, mu is common to both, and you have a double derivative for the viscous term. Okay, so so it's like this is the so in the small box, if you fill in u, you get the x momentum equation, and in a bigger box, if you substitute minus del p by del x, you get x momentum equation. Whereas in the small box, if you substitute v, and in the bigger box, if you substitute minus del p by del x, you get y momentum equation. So this is the final expanded form of the Navier-Stokes equation, constituting continuity and momentum equation, shown in an expanded form. Note that the highest derivative of this equation is the second order derivative. So, and you know that to solve the differential equation, it has first derivative in time and double derivative in space. So you need certain one condition to solve it. You need one condition in time, which is called as initial condition. And since you have a double derivative, so you need, so if you are solving a 2D problem in Cartesian coordinate system, like flow in a square box, then you need boundary condition at x equals to 0, x equals to L, y is equals to 0 and y is equals to h, where L and h are the height and L and L is the length of the flow region and h is the height of the flow region. So note that you need boundary condition all over the boundary, and you need an initial condition to finally get an analytical solution for this governing differential equations. Note that this differential equation is such that if you are able to obtain the analytical solution, from this you can obtain the analytical solution for u velocity. From this you can obtain the analytical solution for v velocities. And you also need to note that this is a non-linear term, where since you are a product of velocities, which is an unknown quantity, so this is a non-linear partial differential equation. The non-linearity comes from this momentum flow rate, which consists of mass flux, which consists of a velocity, which is again multiplied by a velocity. This is a non-linear differential equation, and it's a second order in space and first order in time. With this, I had come to the end of this lecture. You can find the details of the derivation, the differential formulation that is presented in the chapter 3 of the book that I had authored in Introduction to Computational Fluid Dynamics, Development, Application Analysis. If you see most of the fluid mechanics book, they present this derivation in a different way. However, I feel that from the physical law and control volume, the way I had presented the derivation in this, which is not commonly presented in other books, gives you much more insight into the formulations. Thank you for your attention.